budget process unravel, and now I'm into the second budget, and how Joe is able to work these miracles and put up with a whole lot that he put up with last year and where it came out of. So, we don't, and you pointed it out, but I want to highlight it. He didn't come back to the town asking for money. In most towns that didn't occur. Most towns had to dig a little deeper, and Joe himself dug deeper and found ways to get it done. So thank you, Joe, on behalf of a grateful town, for representing well.
Well, I have good people.
You serve us well. Yeah, you sure do. You sure do. Any further questions? Thank you, Joe. So we close the chapter on that. You will not be here at our next meeting, but the vehicle acquisition program will be unveiled along with the CIP. So you wanted to distribute this tonight for us to take a look at?
This one. Is that okay? What I was hoping to do, and because I said I apologize, next week I had family commitment and I'm not going to be there. Chuck Holyfield will be here to discuss the vehicle acquisition plan, and Bill Scheer will be here to go over any other issues. The vehicles that can be discussed next week, but what I did want to give out, if it's okay, is there is something on the budget for the pavement plan, and if I can just have 1 minute, give something out, and then you guys can have it, take a look at it. But I would like to put my little 2 cents on it, just so when it's discussed next year with Mr. Scheer and Mr. Holyfield, you heard some comments from me, if that's okay.
Got it.
I'll be quick.
Thank you. That's why I put that chair there, so nobody will walk through there.
I was talking to Mr. Newton at 4:30 this morning about the roads.
Oh, dear. And you got it done, right? Did we delay school today, or?
Yeah.
We just got the kids into school.
We brought trucks in early so that we wouldn't have to. Hopefully the kids didn't hear that on the TV.
Thanks for that.
I'm sorry.
The teachers are more upset about no delay than the kids are.
The reason I wanted to
Shocking.
bring this up, and I understand that you'll have every opportunity to ask questions next week, and my staff will be able to, is if, on the budget, so you're aware, we typically have a $900,000 line item for roads. And this year, I'm asking for the 900, but another 720. I'm not, I totally understand the ramifications of budgets, and if it can't be funded, but I want to explain why I'm doing this. The 900,000 is getting by, but believe it or not, even though it sounds like a lot of money, to play catch up on some of these roads, because we have 114 miles of road. And this is the reason I have. When you have some neighborhoods, and let's bring up Bush Hill, is the $720,000 is for Bush Hill. And that's what you can see in the map they provided. There's 136 homes up there. If you've driven up there in a while, the roads are they're in rough
Not
shape.
good.
I get complaints from the residents of 136 homes up there. It will cost $720,000 to do it right. I can't do it wrong. I can't just throw a pavement treatment up there because it won't last for a year or two, and then we will look bad. The way it is, you have to grind up the road, you have to get rid of all the curb, you have to grade it, drainage, everything. It's a significant cost. I can't keep taking these calls from these people and saying this without doing it right. So I'm going through the budget process, putting it in. If the towns, if the boards, the selectmen, the board of finance says no, then I have something to tell the people, but I need to put it on there. So just to let you know, I don't want to have to put this extra amount on it, but this is the proper way to do it, is to let you guys know that that's the 720 is for Bush Hill. There's another neighborhood, Latimer Drive in Cavison on the Flanders end of town. We just did a lot of work in the northern section of town, but that section of road is just like Bush Hill. It's just ripped up, get calls all the time, it's falling apart. Most likely than not, and that road is, I think it's about 40, 45 years old, because I remember when I was a kid growing up, I grew up right that way, but I don't think the pavement was thick enough. It's probably only 2-3 inches of thick. Now we put 4 inches, so it's falling apart. It has to be ground up. So in the 900,000, I was looking to do Latimer Drive in Cavison, which is going to cost me about cost the town $360. It's $720,000 to do Bush Hill. That would already be over the allotment of 900, and I haven't done. That would have only been able to do 2.8 miles of our 114 miles of road, when every year the 900,000 has been getting us 10 miles of road. So I'm asking for the 900. I was looking to do Latimer Drive in Cavison. I was looking to do Bush Hill if if it's funded. But then I still have a list, and I've written down here the list. We still need to do the pavement treatments. I still like to do Society Road. Society Road in front of Lily B. Haynes School is getting in rough shape. There's a lot of traffic there. Gurley Road in Riverhead Lane in the Gold Spur area, I get all kinds of complaints of. So I've laid out what the plan is for next year. It's pretty ambitious as far as I'm asking for more money if we don't get it. I totally understand, but we're not gonna be able to do Bush Hill next year. And it doesn't make sense to do half of it. There's really not a lot of economies of scale to do half of it, because the half of the neighbors that don't get it, you're gonna have a beautiful half and then a falling apart other half. Who picks the half? And from a cost perspective. So I didn't need to have discussion unless you have questions. My staff will be here to answer anything about this. It's an important enough thing to let you know, have something that you can look at for next week's meeting, and at least it tells you how I'm looking to spend the 1.6 million, and not just, can I have 1.6 million? I have a detailed plan of how to do it. I just wanted to make sure I was able to have an opportunity to say that in front of you.
What would the length of time be to just do Bush Hill?
To do that work,
Mm-hmm.
probably take a month. I mean, there would be a lot of things going on over that time. It's a similar process to Hope Street. So Hope Street is maybe 1/6, 1/8 of Bush Hill. I mean, Hope Street is only we did from 38 Hope Street to the other end, excuse me. But Bush Hill has got almost a mile of road up there.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd say 3 weeks to 4 weeks.
Thank you.
You don't have Town Aid Road down for next year. Did I miss that?
No, thank you for saying. So Town Aid Road, typically that you could say use that. I took two things out of the budget. You mentioned Walnut Hill Road. There's if you've been up to Walnut Hill Road, we have orange barriers up there. There's a wall up there that we're estimating is gonna cost about $175,000 to repair. Also, there's a drainage project down by the beach, down by McCook's, for Atlantic Street. That whole pond, it's right across the street, doesn't drain. We have to replace that. That, if you add up those two projects, it's $270,000. I could have put it in SIP, but again, that's just more challenges for you guys. I'm looking to take it out of Town Aid Road, which I have 300 and, so I'm gonna be really cutting it tight on Town Aid Road. Those two projects is 270, and on Town Aid Road, I have 340. That gives me 70,000 a buffer to pay for the salt when I go over, or pay for the,
Right.
so that, I'm glad you brought that up, I don't have an extra 340, I already have that allotted to another project, so I can take it out of the SIP, so you don't have to cut that. So I can get those projects, because I have to, that Walnut Hill Road wall has to be fixed. Those barriers up there are filled with water.
We have a priority order. In other words, if we can't fund everything, if we can't fund all of those.
I can,
Right.
well, and I would take the Bush Hill Road. When it comes to pavement management, unfortunately, the roads like the Bush Hills, you don't do. You keep all the other roads in thing until it becomes an issue, because you're spending too much money on one area. The problem is, if you live there, you would disagree. So if I had a priority, I would take the Bush Hill out and take the 720 out and keep the 900. I'd hate to say that, because all those people really wanted this 136 homes, but as far as if I could take the 900, I'd be able to allocate it over 10 miles of road. The 720 is 2 miles of road. I'd rather keep the 114 miles of system up.
Right.
So that's your priority.
Right.
Well, we need to know what your thinking is, because we have to think ahead too, because we oftentimes don't end up with what we want.
That's why I want to tell you
Right.
my priorities, and
Right.
and that's why I'm putting the 720. It would be great to get it if the town can't afford it, then cut the 720, but we're not doing Bush Hill, because I can't go up there and do anything else, because it would be an injustice to the road to put a paving service on a road that's falling apart. It would last a year and be good money for bad.
In other words, we see the logic of this, but the next step forward, our counterparts might not.
Correct.
So
But if I put it out on the table, that I totally understand. I hate to add extra money in those cases, but I have to advocate for the people up there, and if the town can't afford it, the town can't afford it. I totally understand that, it's different from last year, so I wanted you to hear from me that that's the reason I put the 720, not to say, oh, let's have all this extra money. It's because to do this plan, that's what I need. Otherwise, we'll patch potholes up there. I encourage you to drive up there if you want,
Yeah.
take a look, because the
I
roads are
have,
falling.
unfortunately,
The roads are-
recently.
Yeah.
And one road up there, cul-de-sac Highwood, is just, it's crumbled.
Yeah, that's, yeah.
It's horrible. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. You want to do the vehicles or no?
Chuck, I don't need to.
Yeah, put it
I mean,
off.
Yeah.
Let Chuck do it.
Yeah, Chuck is.
That was a good explanation on this,
Very
though.
impassioned about the vehicles. He can cover it next week.
Yeah.
I wanted you guys.
This
to
is
hear
really good from you on
I
this.
wanted you guys to hear that from me,
You want to save that,
for Chuck.
you want to save the spiel again in about a month. We're going to be
Yeah,
in front of
that's
Board of
fine.
Finance. And I think
I
that
don't
it's a
mind.
really intelligent way of presenting that
Thank you.
that makes a lot of sense. At some point, we're going to have to bite the bullet and make an investment. Anna, you want to go over revenue numbers? Or at least distribute to go over at some point? Thank you, Joe. Have a
Thanks,
good
Joe.
night.
Have a
Stay
good
with the
night.
family.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We've been at this for a while, Anna, so I don't know if it's really up to the folks at this table if we want to go in depth here, if we want to take this and be able to review it and come back with some questions.
I think we need time to review it.
Okay.
and see what we can do here.
Before we do, if there are any, like, quick bullet points, any areas that you think we should pay particular attention to?
I'll point out the MRSA line about almost halfway down on the front page, $350,000 of new revenue coming in.
Not methicillin-resistant staff?
This would be the sales tax
Yeah.
sharing. Yeah, this is a good MRSA.
Yeah.
And this is from the sales tax. This is shared revenue with the state. You know, they increased the sales tax a couple of years ago, and this is their commitment back to the towns. So this is $350,000 of sales tax money coming back to our town. It's an additional revenue item that we have not seen. As far as the state pilot and LOSIP and all the other things, we're relatively flat in the proposed budget by the governor as it stands right now. Flat meaning from the amended revenues that we received this current year. Amended because they gave us one figure and then took $107,000 away just a couple months ago that we're going to deal with and budget through and manage through. But so they're keeping us relatively flat at that line. There's a few differences. And when you review this, and when you compare this to the big budget book, and you'll be able to make some sense out of this. And we can go over this at a future Board of Selectmen meeting, I think. Okay. Thank you. So, there we go, revenues. We'll move back up to 2A on our new business approval of the dispatcher's contract. I believe we had an executive session at a prior meeting. We went over the details of it. Let me just get my bearings here, hold on. Had a lot of paper. Yeah, so basically, we had the dispatcher's contract. It's for a 1-year term. We're going to go back to the table and work with the dispatchers for a 3-year term, hopefully, in the next couple of months.
I'll move to approve the dispatcher's contract for 2015, 2016.
Second?
It's been seconded. Any further comment? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain? Okay, thank you. The next is transfer from payroll contingency to emergency dispatch accounts due to the timing of the budget process and contract negotiations.
I'll move to transfer $5,534 from account 01-01-120-100-500 contingency pending PR change to the following accounts. $4,421 to account 01-25-224-100-212 dispatchers. $719 to account 01-25-224-100-214 overtime, and $394 to account 01-01-114-100-121 FICA and Medicare to fund local 1303-436 Council 4 AFSME dispatchers agreement and forward to the Board of Finance for their approval.
Second.
Hey, that's okay. We're all sleeping on the job. Second has been duly noted. Any comment? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstain? There are 2 appointments to make tonight.
Okay. For the Niantic
Thank
River
you.
Watershed, and I'll move the following. Appoint Don Landers of 3 Beach Avenue, Niantic, and Pete Harris of 5 South Ridge Road, Niantic, Connecticut, to serve on the Niantic River Watershed Committee through January 6th of 2020.
Second?
Motion's been seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstain? Okay.
I'll move to appoint Rick Cantor of 24 Wells Street, Niantic, Connecticut, to serve as an alternate member of the Niantic River Watershed Committee through January 6th of 2020.
Second?
It's been seconded. Any comments? All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstain? Is the next the commercial fishing leases?
Appears to be.
Okay. I'm just trying to adjust between agendas and books here. Believe one of the examples was sent out in your packet, I think electronically. You may have gotten a few more. Any comments? I've had discussions with the one fellow who's doing a lot of storing down there of lobster pots, and those will be removed to create additional parking for staff, and even customers could park in there if they were.
Mark, is that a paved? That's not paved, is it?
It's not paved, it's gravel.
It's crushed.
It's great, okay.
Crushed gravel, and it was for those purposes of storage, but it's an abundance of storage, so
But
we
not
clean that
full,
up.
not long-term storage.
Yeah, and it's
Right.
turning out to be.
Is he going to be allowed to keep some there?
Yeah, part of his operation, and they all have a certain degree of storage in any of their operations. Some more than others, but I think it's been pointed out that we need to do something about that. It's taking up a whole lot of valuable space down there. So
Do you have any idea how many parking spaces that would create?
maybe another half a dozen, depending on how it's configured.
I think at least
You
a
know,
half dozen, I was
Yeah.
Yes.
So.
Maybe more.
Yeah, exactly. Well, there's, I think there's a half a dozen already available, so if that opens up to 12, maybe even more, yeah.
Well, my concern earlier had been adequate parking for the commercial fishing vehicles, which we have made a commitment to support. I think with the additional parking spaces being created, I'm not as concerned.
Yeah.
Especially after, my concern would be that those afternoon trips that
Yeah.
go out, which would be at peak time.
Right. And we've managed through them, and everybody's
How
been
many years is this lease for?
3 years, 3 seasons.
I'm a little uncomfortable with going with 3 years, not knowing how this is going to work out. I wouldn't want to see any of those businesses fail as a result of this, or have them leave town. I think that would be a loss to the community. Is there some way that we could put a reopener on that within the contract?
We could always renegotiate a lease. They're in favor of 3 years. We were talking about because they like the longevity and the the confidence that they're going to be there for 3 years, that they can invest in their business and know that they are going to be supported. I suppose if there's problems, again, so far there hasn't been, but I think we're about to see, things change down there. I think you're absolutely right. We'll work through them. And if we need to make adjustments, we can do so. I mean, then the language is open worded and left loosely worded, so that it's at the discretion of the Parks and Rec, so that we can move with it instead of saying, first come, first serve only. It says, we'll work through it.
Well, as long as that is reflected in our minutes,
Yeah, well, here it is.
then
It is.
I will vote for it.
It's the full intention of the lease. And secondly, there's only really one business down there that's bringing in the public. And it's very valuable to the tourists, to other businesses. And I do want to support it. And that is the one that's bringing in, with his customers comes parking issues. But we're going to work through that, just like we're working through all the other beach issues and tourist issues. And we'll just keep on getting better and better at it.
And I do like addressing Roseanne's concerns, and I think the 3-year contract they like because it gives them a feeling of security for they to know that a year down the road they may not have to start going through this again. So
Right.
I'm very confident. So I'll move to authorize the first selectman to sign the commercial fishing leases from January 1, 2016 through December 31st of 2018.
Second.
We got motions been seconded. We've had some comments. Any further?
I would,
Yep.
I would just, I agree with Roseanne and the other comments. I think it's important that both sides work together. It looks like there really is goodwill on both sides of the contract to make it work. I think that's important. I'm glad it's reflected in the minutes. None of us know exactly how it's going to play out over the next couple of years down in that area. We're just going to have to see. And I think having removed the lobster pots, that alleviates some of the concerns I had before about their ability to function. So I would be in favor of it.
Terrific.
That's all I have to say.
I'll call the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain? Ayes have it unanimously. We are happy to get that continued with some momentum. We'll get those things signed and move forward. Next is it the blight ordinance that's
Yes.
next?
Yes.
Mr. Salerno, you heard some feedback, I think?
So
You made some changes?
Yep. So the changes that were requested, one was the fee schedule. You should have one that was mailed to you. You should also have one that was in your packet today, dated 2/16/16. If you could open that one up. And if you look at page 4, the penalty violation. So now it says a violation of this ordinance shall be punishable by civil penalty of $10 per day for the first 90 days of violation. If after 90 days of violation continues, the fine thereafter shall be $50 per day for each day a violation continues. So that was in response to our conversation. If you look at page 6B, we added in section 10 municipal performance to correct costs, and this is which is now a new section B. The owner of the blighted premises may choose to cooperate with the blight enforcement officer and permit the town of East Lyme to cure the blight, provided said owner shall secure a payment of the town's expenses of remediation by way of lien of the property on the property or such other document satisfactory to the town attorney. So we didn't. The building official has some flexibility to go in and fix, issues, or the fire marshal, but with blight, we don't. So by putting this in here, it allows us a little bit more creativity that if we have a blighted property, especially if you go back to, we have provisions for disabled, financially strapped, and stuff like that. This allows the town to work with the property owner. If they don't have the cash flow to do it, to fix it, then the town could go and secure a lien on the property, get paid back eventually, but clean the property. The one you had before, it kind of made it sound like that we were going to do that. This is we may.
Right.
This is a may. This is not something that we intend to do all the time. But if there are situations that come up, this gives the town at least a flexibility to do that. And that's it. So those are the changes we talked
Thank
about.
Is there other discussion, or is the pleasure to move to a public hearing?
I'll notice of public hearing, Town of East Lyme Board of Selectmen, notice of public hearing regarding adoption of a blight ordinance. Notice is hereby given of a public hearing to be held by the East Lyme Board of Selectmen at 7 p.m. on March 2nd, 2016, at the East Lyme Town Hall, 108 Pennsylvania Avenue, Niantic, Connecticut, to consider the adoption of a blight ordinance. Said ordinance would prohibit any owner, occupant, agent, tenant, and/or person in control of real property located in the town of East Lyme from allowing, creating, maintaining, or causing to be created or maintained blight on the premises. Copies of the full text of the proposed ordinance are on file for public inspection at the office of the East Lyme Town Clerk, 108 Pennsylvania Avenue, Niantic, Connecticut, and at www.eastlimetownhall.com, to which reference may be had. Interested persons are invited to attend and be heard. Dated East Lyme, Connecticut, on the 17th day of February 2016. And
Second.
so moved.
I think that was the second.
It was a second,
I was
yeah.
mumbling somewhere in there.
Say anything, sorry.
And are there any other comments? As you know, we'll go to public hearing, then we'll have more discussion, and then we'll see fit to vote on this.
I'd just like to thank Mr. Salerno and the zoning official and everyone involved for their work on this. Obviously, a lot of thought was gone into it, and I think the steps have been taken to make it have some teeth, but not put an undue burden on those individuals who may have fallen into this situation through misfortune or other adverse events. So thank you, Mark.
Thank you,
Thanks.
Mark.
Yes.
You're
Nice
a
job.
doer, Mark. We get you on a job, it gets done. We really appreciate it. There's a lot of citizens who have reached out to me over the last, say, 14 months that have been sitting here that have pointed out properties or issues in their neighborhood. I really appreciate what you're doing and what you've done so far. Thank you.
Well, thanks, and also thanks to Town Attorney Tracy Collins for helping us out and Bill
Yeah.
Holland.
Did we vote yet?
So,
Do we vote on that?
not yet.
No,
All in
not yet.
favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain? Okay, now we voted. That was a unanimous vote, by the way, darling. I know you packed up already, but keep your pencil in your hand. We have a lot of ex officio to get through.
No, we don't.
No, we
Are there any ex officio reports?
We've been here a long time. There's nothing urgent. I'll defer.
But Roseanne really wanted to tell us
Yes.
about
What about
planning.
Give us
I
a
will-
3.5-hour synopsis on 3.5 hour.
You yield your time to me?
No. But
All right. I did attend the Natural Resources Commission, but I will summarize. I'll do a couple of meetings at a time, summarize those. Nothing pressing. Planning met last night to do a referral to zoning. Zoning will meet tomorrow night with a public hearing and its regular meeting. And the purpose of this is to consider a text amendment which would redefine bed and breakfast, allow for weddings, 8 per year, farm dinners, which could have up to 200 guests. The weddings could have 100. The farm dinners would be 5 times per year, all occurring within 1 week. Concern being that the text amendment would not apply just to the app